what's up lawn care nuts, and welcome to another video here of our Bermuda grow. Right now we're in mid-January, and actually I didn't even think I'd be doing anything with the grow at this point. I figured it would be dormant, but this year's been really strange here in Florida and really throughout most of the country, and it's stayed really warm really long. We are still in the low 70s even today. So because of that, it's a good thing because the turf has actually continued to grow and thicken up, and that's a good thing for me. But the drawback is I've also been getting some weeds and crabgrass that have continued to invade. My pre-emergent that I put down like, I don't know, 6 or 7 weeks ago has pretty much washed through because sandy soils don't hold pre-emergents that well, and that's allowed these things to invade here. So what that does is it gives me the opportunity to go ahead and spray some weeds now. And it also gives me the opportunity to share with you my ultimate weed control mix. In fact, I'm gonna call it my ultimate custom weed control mix. But before we go getting too crazy, I do wanna share with you, I am not really excited about going and spraying all these weeds. I tend to try to go organic. You guys know I talk about my hybrid organic lawn program. What that means is it's basically another twist on integrated pest management, which means you only spray weeds when you have to. In this case, these weeds will cause damage to my primary crop because they're gonna shade it out. So that means I can't leave them there. I've got to get rid of them. The other thing I'm facing here is that this part of the lawn, and really my entire lawn here, has had no measurable turf in it for at least 20 years. It's just been this gigantic weed pit year after year after year. So because of that, I've been calling it the salad bar. I'm gonna have problems with weeds here for years because for 20 years there was nothing here but weeds. So I'm gonna have to use chemical meads here in the beginning and probably for a while until I can get my grass established nice and thick and then move towards more of an organic type treatment program. Don't forget though, I'm still using organic fertilizers like Milorganite all throughout this process. All right, so first let me show you what we're dealing with. We've got crabgrass, quite a bit of that in there. And then we got a lot of nutsedge coming in over here. And then there are multiple broadleaf weeds coming in. So because of everything that I'm dealing with here, I need a weed control that's got a broad spectrum of control. And that's where comes in my custom mix. In fact, my favorite custom mix. All right, now this weed control that we're gonna mix here custom is really just a play on a weed control that I used to like with a spike. The name of the weed control was Quincep, and Quincep was something we used when I worked for True Green, and we used it pretty much through the late summer and in the fall. And then what you do is you spike it with something for the nutsedge. Now we're not gonna do an exact clone of Quincep. We're gonna leave out one element, but that's okay, because what this custom weed control mix is gonna do is provide good enough control for the problems that I have, and probably most of the problems that you have. And in fact, this weed control can be used on all grass types except St Augustine. Sorry about that, St Augustine guys. We'll have to do something for you later. But any northern turf grass, including Kentucky bluegrass, turf type tall fescue, even some of your finer fescues, perennial ryegrass, and of course what I've got down here in the south, Bermuda grass. This mix will work great for any of those. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and talk through what's in this custom weed control mix and why I like it so much. And by the way, this is pretty much gonna be my year-round weed control mix. I won't always use what's called the spike, which I'll talk about, but the other two elements I will use as my all-around Bermuda weed control all throughout the season. The last thing I'll mention is I always recommend that we mix in a hand can and we spot spray or zone spray weeds. I do not recommend blanket control or anything like that. You want to use as little product as possible just to control the harmful pests that's in your turf. All right, so let's get everything together that we're gonna need and let's talk through it, how we're gonna use it, and how we're gonna work it. But first, let's put on our PPE, personal protective equipment. Long sleeves, long pants, rubber boots, rubber gloves, eye protection. Always do that. You do not want to get the stuff on your skin. I could tell you a story about a guy once that got a lot of weed control on his hands and then went in the bathroom and used the urinal. It was not a pretty sight, and your wife will never believe you when you tell her the story of why those bumps got there. Trust me. All right, so the first thing you need, 1 gallon pump sprayer. I only mix 1 gallon of solution at a time. That way I don't have too much on hand. I don't have to store it. And you want this to be pre-filled 1/2 to 3/4, closer to a half full of just clean water. I did triple rinse this since the last time I used it. Not only do you want to triple rinse the tank, but also the lines and hoses as well. Then you can go ahead and use it for another product as long as you've done that. Next thing you're going to need is your various measuring tools and then obviously your products. So the first product and the workhorse of the group is the 2,4-D Amine. Now 2,4-D, you can get this in an ester or an Amine. That's basically just the way it's delivered is what that means. Typically would use an ester in the north when we have a little bit cooler temperatures, but even in the summer in the north and definitely in the south you want to use an Amine formulation because you're going to have less of a chance that the product is going to become airborne and drift and hurt off-site plants. So we typically want to use an Amine. Now an Amine will work a little bit slower, but again, not a problem. So 2,4-D, that's our workhorse. The next piece of the puzzle is going to be our Quinclorac 75 DF. Again, this is what you're going to go after with crabgrass, but I will go ahead and put up a screenshot at the end of this of all the weeds that are controlled by each of these products so you can kind of see, because this will hit a lot more than just crabgrass. Then next, Sedgehammer. Sedgehammer is pretty expensive, so you can buy it in these single packs, which this actually just mixes. This is a single pack for 1 gallon. It's just perfect. That's why it's called a spike. This is our primary weed control here, and then we're going to spike it with the Sedgehammer. And then lastly, you're going to need a surfactant, which you can use baby shampoo, or I'm using dishwashing detergent. This is basically a sticker. This helps everything stick. These elements here are all available from my guys at Solution Self Chem, solutionstores.com. I'm going to put their information below. Call Paul or Sebastian at the store. They can hook you up with this. They can also make recommendations based on what you might need locally, if things are a little bit different, if you have some different things you're going after. But this is my base weed control product here, and with that spike of Sedgehammer. So with that, let's go ahead and mix according to label directions. I'm using a clamp here to keep my hose clamped, so that way I can control my water flow. It works pretty decent. Alright, now we're on to our dry flowables, and here we want just under 3/4 of an ounce. I'm going to go slightly lighter than that, so I can see my marking here, right there for 3/4 of an ounce. On a dry flowable, so I'm going to go slightly lighter than that. Little heavy-handed. Let's put some back in. We'll do it this way just to avoid spillage. You want to make sure you agitate it real good. You want to make sure all that dry product gets well incorporated into this mix. Alright, and now we're going to go ahead and we're going to fill it up the rest of the way. Now the key here is you do not want to put your hose down into the mix. Keep it outside of the tank. We don't want to have any type of backflow that can go back into the public water system. Now I know people will argue with me about that. Just keep it off your hose. Keep your hose out of the mix. Don't put it in there. You just don't want that stuff on your hose. You don't want it exposed to your city water lines. Just don't do it. It's actually a law in some places. Go ahead and agitate one more time. Now this mix is ready to go, and this will cover 1,000 square feet. Alright, so I'm going to re-glove and then I'm going to go spray. Keep in mind best practices here. We want to keep the wand at knee height, and we want to get the finest mist possible. And we don't want to spray down on a weed and nail it. We want to spray across it so that we coat all the leaf sources with our fine mist. The other thing is, don't cut your lawn first. You want as much leaf surface on these weeds and these crabgrass as possible to go ahead and absorb the product that we just created. Okay guys, so that's pretty much it. I just took a bunch of before pictures. I'll go ahead and flash those through the video here, but then in a couple weeks I'll take some after pictures so you can see exactly the results we got with this custom weed control mix. Thanks for watching. I'm Amine the Lawn Care Nut, and I'll see you in the lawn.